Hello and welcome back. This is a brief video introduction to some footage that I shot in Bath recently over the last few days, where this is during a trip just to find out if I can find any information about my missing family and the 15 or so members that completely vanished into thin air some 10 years ago. And as luck would have it, I bumped into the Dementia Society on the High Street and was therefore able to have a quick chat with them about my predicament in terms of having two senile parents very clearly displaying all the classical signs of senile dementia, only to find that they're not interested in any form of cure whatsoever. And indeed more interested in using their mental illnesses to scare people and make more profit. So I put this question to the Dementia Society in terms of were they aware of a growing population of senile geriatric local residents who were quite frankly not interested in a cure for dementia because they have seen a grand opportunity to use their mental illness to scare people witless and make huge sums of money. And they replied to say that yes, they were aware this is going on. They are sadly aware that such things do happen in Bath, and went on to add that they believe me. So in light of that, I thought that I'd just share this footage with you just to raise awareness to these issues and the fact that my father was referred to a senior mental health doctor in Bath around summer 2021, when we already had clear signs that he was going completely and utterly mad and clearly struggling with classical signs of senile dementia. And of course, I received no reply to these emails, no offer of assistance. I did actually receive a reply initially to the first emails, but once the evidence started arriving, proving and showing and exposing my father's serious deterioration in mental health and all this evidence of harm done to innocent people, then all of a sudden Dr. Wall decided to cut me off and stop replying to my emails and stop offering any kind of assistance or help with the problems that I had with my parents. So yeah, without further ado, I'd just like to share this footage with you. Well, here I am in Bath, trying to find out what happened to my family. This is the Galizia, Sarson and Dunkley family that completely vanished around 2014, when I saw around 15 members completely disappear off the radar, literally vanish out of thin air. And the motives for their disappearance appear to be extremely clear in terms of, well, my father was caught around that time managing a gigantic cancer charity fraud and decided that the best recourse or the best way of dealing with this discovery would be to just quite literally threaten my whole entire family into silence, and that would be a successful way of suppressing all the evidence you see of literally just quashing all the evidence with just brutal intimidation and just threatening people with, Christ knows what, in order to just stop them talking to me, stop them discussing the evidence and shut them up permanently. Now, that's one way of dealing with someone finding out about crimes you've committed. If we happen to have engaged in large-scale crimes like fraud and big-scale corruption, then that's certainly one path we can take when we get nicked. You know, if somebody says, oh, look, I've got a load of evidence, then you just turn around and disappear a whole family, or three families in this case, to hide the evidence. But does that make the person innocent? Of course not. Does that mean that they'll get away with it? Not necessarily. Does that mean that they are then free to go on and commit more of these crimes in future? Maybe. And that's certainly what's happening here in terms of a very clear effort to try and sweep any existing evidence under the carpet with a view to obviously capitalizing on more profit in the future, to say that they've enjoyed making a lot of money from this fraud, have no intention of stopping the corruption and this charity fraud in future, quite simply because the money in it is too much to resist, and therefore if there are any issues with domestic terrorism, I mean, in terms of, well, people finding out about violent terrorism required to maintain this fraud, then that's okay too. So, yeah, we have a serious problem here, you know, with these people now trying to literally normalise mental health issues. This is normalise mental health illnesses, mental illness, more to the point, normalise domestic terrorism required to prop up fraud, and normalise charity fraud, or normalise government fraud, normalise any fraud for that matter, just normalise corruption. So in a nutshell, yes, we're dealing with a very clear attempt just to normalise evil, normalise terrorism, normalise fraud, and normalise mental illness, which appears to be tragically possible if the people doing this, i.e. this senile geriatric population we have in Bath, that all seem to be at it here. There's a sort of growing senile geriatric population that clearly have vast amounts of money, and when they're together that makes astronomical amounts of money, and that astronomical amounts of money obviously runs into billions if not trillions, and a proportion of that is sliced off at the police and law enforcement to look the other way, while this aging geriatric community just runs around committing every crime under the sun, in terms of doing literally what the hell they like. Well, here I am on Bath High Street trying to find out what happened to my family, if my parents are alive, what happened to the other 15 missing members of the Galizia, Sarson and Dunkley family, and of course it doesn't look good. There are serious signs of heinous crimes, nefarious activity, people being disappeared, people being quite literally fast-track cremated or buried, quite simply because they either died from a blood clot, a vaccine adverse event, maybe turbo cancer, maybe they were even murdered. We don't know. All we know is that the people managing these crimes are behaving increasingly suspiciously and are displaying all the classical symptoms of mental illness, which is quite ironic because I've just spoken to two people here. If we just have a look here, these two people in the picture who were on Milsom Street here in Bath looking for a cure for dementia. So I just raised this issue with them very briefly just to let them know that my parents are showing all the classical signs of senile dementia, holding the whole town to ransom with a terrorist organisation, trying to normalise mental illness, normalise terrorism, normalise evil, and were they aware of it? They said they actually were. I mean, one lady turned around and said, "You know what, I believe you." The other one said, "Yes, I do too," and but they said there's obviously not a lot we can do about it, which is understandable. So we're here to obviously look for a cure. We're obviously paid by our bosses to find a cure for dementia, and very sad to hear that old people obviously, at the receiving end of these cures are not interested in a cure. They're more interested in just staying mad, staying completely insane, terrorising the living daylights out of everyone that doesn't agree with their mental illness or their terrorism, until they literally batter everyone else into some kind of submission. Absolutely disgusting.